We begin with troubling stories from U.S. sailors serving in the Iran war, including one who went overboard. Some military families say their loved ones are dealing with food shortages, broken plumbing, and mental health problems on the USS Abraham Lincoln. With more than 5,000 sailors and Marines on board, the carrier has been deployed for more than 250 days and has visited a port in more than 200. It departed from San Diego on November 21st for the South China Sea, but was rerouted to the Middle East when attacks on Iran began on February 28th. Earlier today, CBS News 24/7 spoke with retired Vice Admiral Robert B. Murrett.
We ought to be conscious of the sacrifices that are made by families because the military is a family matter, and some of us know that from personal experience. And we try to mitigate that as much as possible. But and one of the ways with that is for R&R visits and keeping deployments to a reasonable cycle, which, as I said, should be about 6 or 7 months.
The Military Times spoke with a father whose son is serving on the Lincoln, and he told the news outlet, quote, "I don't want to worry that the circumstances of this deployment will get the best of my son and he doesn't make it back home." For more on this, I want to bring in CBS News Pentagon reporter Eleanor Watson. So what do we know about the sailor who went overboard and was safely rescued?
The Navy, in a statement today, confirmed that a sailor did go overboard earlier this month and was safely rescued. That incident is under investigation. It's unclear the circumstances of why and how the sailor went overboard, but it does come amidst these reports of potentially multiple attempts to go overboard. Families, we know, raised some concerns about mental health. Some of the families of the more than 5,000 sailors and Marines on board did raise concerns about mental health to the Navy Secretary last week in a town hall that we're told was, quote, contentious. We do know that one spouse during that event showed a text message she received from her husband that essentially said, "I don't want to wake up tomorrow." That is very concerning. The Navy does have chaplains and therapists on board, but that's a small comfort to some of these families who are worried about the mental health issues. I did speak to another spouse and connected with her. She did not raise any concerns about mental health. She did say that earlier in the deployment, there were some rations of food that were running low, but that has been remedied. Her bigger concern now is how much longer is this deployment going to last?
So what other problems are you hearing about, and how is the military addressing them?
So some of the problems we've heard about are just the length of the deployment. The longer a deployment goes, it takes a toll on the mental health of the sailors and on the ship itself. You do see in some of the extended deployments we've seen in the past few years more incidents of accidents the longer a deployment goes on. There's more of a risk for that, at least, the longer a deployment goes on. That's kind of the case with any deployment. There's been an uptick in carriers having to be extended because there are only about 10 of them in the Navy, and they're called upon pretty frequently. In this instance, the families are just asking the Navy kind of when they can expect to have their sailors home. The Navy Secretary last week told families that the USS Roosevelt, which is supposed to deploy later this fall, could replace the Lincoln, but it looks like that plan may be changing because the USS George Washington appears to be headed toward the Middle East from the Pacific.
So how much longer would that deployment mean then if the George Washington is on its way?
If it's on its way, it could get there over the next few weeks, but then it would take an additional 3 weeks for the Lincoln to come back to port in San Diego, and they may try and give them a port call on their way back home.
Eleanor Watson, certainly to be continued. Thank you.